Our world is more connected than it's ever been. From travel and culture to business and trade, our way of living is increasingly dependent on global connections. The value of goods traded globally, for example, tripled between 2000 and 2018. But the challenges of the 21st century are also becoming more global. Challenges like the climate crisis, recessions, pollution, pandemics. These challenges cross national borders, impacting diverse regions, cultures, politics, and economies. Because of their complexity and their global scale, it's impossible for one nation to solve them alone. Throughout the early 20th century, global crises pushed leaders to recognize this increasing need for global cooperation. As a result, the first major global governance organizations, including the United Nations and the World Health Organization, were created in the 1940s to address specific areas of global concern. As new concerns arise, new organizations are formed to address them. The G20, for example, arose out of a financial crisis in the late 1990s to help all nations work together to prevent future crises and ensure global economic health. Global challenges require global solutions. These solutions must address the many contexts, cultures, politics, and economies that will be developing and implementing them. Because no single national government can succeed in this task, global governance organizations will become increasingly essential for facilitating global cooperation as the 21st century continues. But what exactly is global governance? And how does governance differ from governments? There is no single global government. No king, president, or prime minister controls all international relations. Instead, nations rely on global governance organizations to help coordinate their efforts in addressing the challenges of the world. Global governance is a movement towards political cooperation in order to address problems that affect more than one state or region. A global governance organization exists to facilitate this cooperation. One of the best-known global governance organizations, the United Nations, was formed in the aftermath of World War II to help maintain global peace and security. It helps 193 countries work together to prevent global conflict and address crises. It's important to understand that global governance does not mean government. In fact, a leading expert in global governance, Professor Adil Najam, says global governance is the management of global processes without government. While global governance organizations do many of the same things that governments do, like setting and enforcing laws or forming alliances, there are important differences. The biggest difference is that governments are confined to a particular location, a country or nation, and a particular group of people, its citizens. Governments have sovereignty over these people in this location. They act with authority to govern themselves. This unique quality of national governance protects the right of each government to establish individual and group rights within their own territories. In this sense, there can be no global government, since our unique national cultures and systems of rights are protected through our national sovereignties. But many of today's global challenges, like the COVID-19 pandemic, are not constrained by cultural or national borders. They require a solution bigger than what an individual government can provide. This is where global governance is essential in facilitating global cooperation and collaboration. In 2008, the world experienced its worst economic downturn since the 1930s. Its causes were complex, and while it largely started in the United States, its impact was global, precisely the situation global governance organizations are suited to address. Since 1999, the G20 had provided an opportunity for finance ministers and central bank governors to discuss financial policy. But the scope of the 2008 crisis made it clear that national leaders must join the conversation. In November of 2008, the first G20 Leaders Summit convened in Washington, D.C. to address the crisis. The result? A comprehensive action plan designed to improve financial regulation. Subsequent G20 meetings helped coordinate financial stimulus efforts, balance growth, reform global financial institutions, address sovereign debt, and foster growth around the world. It's impossible to know how much worse things would have gotten without the efforts of the G20. But with it, global markets charted a course towards recovery. The G20 response to the 2008 crisis is a shining example of how global governance can help us work together to protect our increasingly connected world.